So the first ingredient is 2¼ cups of all-purpose flour. So I've got this in the sifter. Whoops. Okay, here we go. First flub. The directions say to preheat the oven to 375 degrees. The oven is on. Okay, the next thing to do is to sift all the dry ingredients. So we have the all-purpose flour in here, and to that we are going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of ground cloves, and I have them in the jar. A teaspoon of ground ginger, which is in this jar, and a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, which is in this jar. And what I have done is I put them all together. Here are the spices in this cup, and I am going to put them on top of the flour in my sifter. So now we're going to sift these into the medium-sized bowl and get rid of any lumps that might be in the flour. Okay, so we have our dry ingredients all sifted. Flour, salt, baking soda, and spices together in this medium-sized bowl. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we have 3/4 cup of shortening. So the brand name is Crisco. Okay, so we got 3/4 cup of shortening and put into the large bowl. Okay, and we are going to beat that with an electric beater. If you don't have an electric beater, that's fine. You can just use a spoon, but just remember that you're going to be stirring quite a bit. I will turn this on. It will make a noise, but I won't leave it on for too long. So what we're trying to do now is to what we call cream the shortening. Cream means just to whip it up so it's nice and smooth and a little bit soft. You can see that it's quite fluffy now. I had it out sitting out of the fridge all day, so it's nice and soft and it's easy to mix. Okay, and to that shortening, we're going to add brown sugar. And this is a cup of brown sugar. So I'm just going to dump that into the shortening and whip that all up together. So this is called creaming the shortening and the sugar together. I'm going to finish it up, stirring by hand. Okay. And the goal here is just to mix the sugar really well with the shortening so that it's all soft and even. Sometimes there are little lumps in the brown sugar. Well, you want to get rid of that just to make sure that it's nice and even textured. Okay. So I think you can see that. I'm going to be scraping down with my spatula. Okay, so here we have the shortening the sugar, and we say it's creamed well now. It's nice and combined and soft. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add all the wet ingredients. And the first thing would be an egg. Whoops, yeah. So I have an egg in here in this cup, and I'm just going to beat it up in the cup. right, this egg is well beaten. I'm going to put it in there. And then the other wet ingredient is a 1/2 cup of molasses. And molasses is thick and sticky. So what I did before pouring the molasses into the measuring cup was I greased the inside of the measuring cup with a little bit of the Crisco, because otherwise it will stick all over. And you can watch as I'm going to pour it in. Yeah, can you see it? Yeah, okay. I'm just going to pour it in now. If I didn't grease the inside of this measuring cup, then the molasses would tend to stick all the way around the inside. But I'm still going to have to scrape it out with a spatula. And the molasses has a very distinct smell. It's very sugary and rich and brown, and that's what gives the ginger cookies their special flavor. Molasses is also very sweet. Okay, so we've got the wet ingredients are here together. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to stir that up. Just mix it up. This is a very easy recipe. Just put everything all into this one bowl and just mix. Okay. So once everything's all mixed and even colored like that, we take our dry ingredients, which the flour and the spices, and we're just going to dump them into the wet ingredients. This is an easy recipe. You don't have to worry about how much, if you're mixing too much or mixing too little. It doesn't matter. So here we go. We're mixing this together. And what we're going to get is a dough that's kind of sticky. Okay. If you're the type of person who likes to work with your hands, you can just dig in and mix with your hands if you like, if you don't want to use the wooden spoon. Okay, so there you can see everything's starting to get well mixed up. Okay. So the flour is being absorbed by all the wet ingredients. And it will kind of form a bit of a ball, a big ball, when everything's mixed properly. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to dig in with my hands. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is essentially it. Now, you can make this dough ahead of time and cook it later. So say you only had time right now to make the dough and you didn't have time to bake it. If you wrap this up in some an airtight container or in plastic wrap, you can put this in the fridge and cook it tomorrow, bake the cookies tomorrow if you like, or even a couple of days later. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So now we're just going to get ready and form the cookies. Already start a cookie sheet with the formed cookies, the formed dough on them. And we say about a tablespoon of dough. Here we go, we're making little balls. And what we have are 2 different kinds of sugar here. This is just plain white sugar, and this is raw sugar. Okay, So what we can do is roll it in the sugar, and this just helps give it a nice little crunch and flavor when the cookies are done. So we can, here's the bowl of raw sugar, and I'm just going to roll it in just like that. Again, I'm taking about a tablespoon of dough and making it into a little ball. And now I'm going to try the white sugar. It doesn't matter what kind of sugar you have. If you use the raw sugar, it doesn't melt quite as quickly, so it might be a little bit crunchier when the cookies are done. And on this cookie sheet, we're able to get 16 cookies. Okay. All righty, so the cookie tray is filled. So we're just going to pop it into the oven, and the oven is now up to temperature. We need to squish these cookies down just a tad. Okay, so what I've taken is, this is a mug and it's full of water. So it just keeps the fork a very tiny bit wet, so it doesn't stick to the cookies. So very gently, down just a little bit. And again, you know, if you forget to squish the cookies down, it'll be fine. All right. And then I've got candied ginger here. So it is fresh ginger that has been dried and coated in sugar. It's very tasty, very tangy, very gingery. So what we have done is cut up these slices of dried ginger into some small pieces like this. Okay, so we're just going to decorate every cookie with a little bit of ginger. And that's just to give the cookies the very gingery snap. It's going to be quite tangy because the ginger is spicy. If you don't like ginger, you don't have to put these ginger pieces on. I mean, you could put a nut, you could put some a candied cherry, yeah, or nothing at all. And what I'm doing is I'm just pressing them very gently into the cookie. You don't have to press it hard, just very gently. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to put those into the oven at 375 degrees for about 7 minutes. It doesn't take very long to cook. If you like cookies chewier, you could put them in for maybe 6 minutes. And if you like them crunchier, you could put them in for 8 minutes. But after 5 minutes, be very careful and watch. Take a look at the cookies in the oven because they might burn around the edges. So this was only in for 6 minutes. I think it's a beautiful, even brown color.